Hey fans, I'm Dustin Davis, and I'll update you on everything happening in Detroit. The build-up to a new NFL season always carries its share of optimism, but it also brings sharp questions that cannot be ignored. For Detroit, the air is thick with both. A dominant regular season last year ended abruptly, leaving behind the kind of unfinished business that lingers long after the scoreboard goes dark. Now, as the roster reshuffles and divisional rivals strengthen their own positions, Detroit's path forward is being tested from multiple angles. Some changes are self-inflicted, calculated moves designed to sharpen the roster, while others come from forces outside their control, rivals reloading and contracts looming that could reshape the franchise's future. The weeks leading into kickoff are not just about practices and game plans, they're about survival on the roster, managing trade whispers, and confronting the ripple effects of major shifts across the league. And for Detroit, those conversations begin in the wide receiver room. First, friends, can I ask for a small favor? If you're liking what we do, click the like button to show your support. It truly means a lot. Thanks again. The Detroit Lions sent Patrick to the Jacksonville Jaguars a day after trimming their roster to 50 players, the Free Press reported, with NFL Network first breaking the news. Detroit obtained a 2026 sixth-round draft choice in the transaction. Last season, Patrick hauled in 33 catches for 394 yards, his first campaign with real production since 2021 following injury layoffs, while functioning chiefly as the Lions' third receiving option. Heading into the fall, projections placed him around the number 5 receiver spot on Detroit's depth chart. Throughout camp, Khalif Raymond absorbed many first-team reps as the club's third receiver, while third-round rookie Tesla established himself as a trustworthy target during the summer. He's no different than any young player, Lions coach Dan Campbell said of Tesla after the final preseason contest. He's just going to have some growing pains, and he's going to continue to get better and better. But I'm very pleased, we're very pleased, with where he's at after 6 weeks of camp. Because that's really what it's been. So I would say if you took most receivers, he'd be in the upper echelon of those as far as development. It's pretty good. Because it's not easy to develop as a receiver in this league and be ready to go. And I think there's a place for him to help us early in this season. Patrick, who turns 32 this autumn, finished 6th in Comeback Player of the Year voting after missing the 2022-23 seasons while with the Denver Broncos due to injury. He admitted frustration about a slow start to camp, but added that his body felt great after completing his first full offseason in 3 years. That's my first time going through a camp like this. So yeah, I'm starting off a little slow, but I promise you by the time the season comes, I'm going to be firing on all cylinders. Days later, Campbell downplayed concern over Patrick's early struggles. He hasn't been targeted a bunch. That doesn't help when you're doing a lot of the dirty work and you really haven't had many balls go your way. And you're a receiver, that makes it a little bit hard. But I would tell you it's not as bad as he's portraying it. Tim, we know what Tim is. He's just a steady, reliable veteran guy. Plays big, he's smart, hard worker, and man, he's going to put his days back to back, and he's going to be just fine. The Lions currently have 4 openings on their 53-man roster and could pursue re-signing undrafted free agent Jackson Meeks as a potential number 6 receiver if he clears waivers at noon today. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams return as the starting wideouts. Rookie 7th-round pick Dominic Lovett earned the number 6 receiver role, and Tesla caught 10 passes for 146 yards and 3 touchdowns in the preseason. Detroit also intends to add former Jaguar safety Daniel Thomas to one of its open roster spots pending a successful physical today. Roster questions inside Detroit are only the part of the picture. The NFC North landscape itself has shifted dramatically, raising the stakes for every divisional clash. The Green Bay Packers made one of the boldest moves of the offseason, acquiring All-Pro linebacker Micah Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys. In exchange, Dallas received defensive tackle Kenny Clark along with 2 first-round picks, while Green Bay committed to Parsons with a 4-year, $188 million deal, $136 million guaranteed. That reality alters Detroit's calculus. Back-to-back divisional titles mean nothing now that a rival has inserted one of the league's most disruptive defenders into its lineup. Parsons logged 12 sacks last season and has already tallied 52.5 since entering the league in 2021. Facing him twice a year will test Detroit's rebuilt offensive line in ways they have not seen before. It also raises internal questions. With Parsons' contract averaging $47 million annually, Detroit's own young star Aiden Hutchinson could soon demand a record-setting extension. General Manager Brad Holmes has acknowledged that talks remain a top priority. The market, reset by Parsons, looms over those discussions. Even with that challenge, Holmes remains steadfast in his belief that the Lions are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Asked recently why he feels confident, Holmes pointed to stability and shared purpose across the franchise. The message and the continuity has never changed. The players and the whole organization understand the mission. It's about continuing to get better. I like our depth. I think we have really good skill players, and I think our quarterback is playing at a really high level. As long as Dan Campbell is here, I have total faith in the direction of the team. At the end of the day, we have great ownership. It starts at the top and trickles down. I feel great about where we're going. That belief will now be tested not only by their own development, but by a divisional rival reshaping the competitive balance with one of football's premier defensive weapons. While outside moves grab headlines, Detroit continues to fine-tune its own roster in the wake of final cuts. Trimming from the 91-player training camp limit, the Lions initially slashed down to 50 before making a series of targeted moves. Tim Patrick was traded, safety Daniel Thomas was signed, and waiver claims were used to bring in Tyler Lacey and Tyrus Wheat. That sequence left a roster of 52, one slot open, one decision left. It may seem like a small detail, but in the NFL, that single vacancy could prove crucial. 4 names stand out as potential options. Edge, Zadarius Smith. Smith remains available after his release earlier in the offseason. A proven pass rusher with leadership qualities, he would add valuable depth to a group that currently leans heavily on Aiden Hutchinson. With Marcus Davenport's injury history and only 3 true edge rushers making the final cut, Smith would bring both reliability and situational pressure. WR, Kendrick Bourne. Trading Patrick created opportunities for rookie Isaac Tisleya, but banking solely on a rookie is risky. Kendrick Bourne offers polished route running, physicality, and veteran savvy. He could be a steadying presence, bridging the gap as younger receivers find their footing. OT, Connor McDermott. Depth at offensive tackle remains a concern. McDermott, recently cut by Houston, has experience and versatility that would fit Detroit's needs. Jamarco Jones currently projects as swing tackle, but McDermott would add insurance to a critical position group that cannot afford vulnerability. CB, Asante Samuel Jr. Though his 2024 campaign was cut short by injury, Samuel offers versatility and upside. If healthy, he could strengthen Detroit's secondary depth, providing flexibility and coverage schemes while complementing safeties Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, and newcomer Daniel Thomas. The Lions now face a choice. Use that final roster spot to add proven experience or keep it open for developmental upside. Either way, the decision reflects the delicate balance between short-term competitiveness and long-term vision. Beyond the immediate roster puzzle, one trade scenario hovers on the horizon with potentially massive implications. The New York Giants are reconfiguring their defensive front after signing Brian Burns and drafting Abdul Carter. That shift has cast former 5th overall pick Kayvon Thibodeaux into uncertainty, and Detroit is one of the teams most frequently linked to his name. A projected framework has been floated. Detroit acquiring Thibodeaux in exchange for a 2026 third-rounder and a 2027 sixth-rounder. For New York, it clears room for Burns and Carter to lead the edge rotation while securing valuable draft capital. For Detroit, it's a classic buy low gamble on a young talent still on his rookie contract. Thibodeaux remains under team control through 2026 after the Giants exercise his 5th-year option, carrying an option-year salary of roughly $14.57 million. While he flashed promise with 11.5 sacks in 2023, his development has not been entirely linear. New York, facing cap management and extension decisions, could view now as the right time to maximize his value. The Burns-Carter pairing leaves Thibodeaux vulnerable to becoming the odd man out. Burns, signed to a 5-year, $141 million deal, and Carter, the explosive top draft pick, are central to the Giants' defensive future. That makes trading Thibodeaux less about talent and more about fit and finances. Detroit, however, is a natural landing spot.
Dan Campbell's program has built a foundation of toughness and versatility, but the defense still needs a complementary pass rusher opposite Hutchinson. Thibodeaux's length, speed, and flexibility would fit seamlessly, potentially creating one of the NFL's most dynamic young edge duos. For New York, moving Thibodeaux would not be an easy call. But with roster priorities shifting and Joe Sheehan's willingness to make bold moves already established, this type of trade aligns with pragmatic roster building. Other franchises, like the 49ers, Bears, and Patriots, may also monitor the situation. But Detroit's mix of need, cap room, and scheme fit make them a leading candidate. Ultimately, Thibodeaux's future reflects the constant churn of NFL roster construction. What begins as a cornerstone piece in one city can quickly become trade bait in another. And for Detroit, that dynamic may present an opportunity to take another significant step forward in reshaping their defensive identity. Looking at the available free agents, which name stands out most to you? Smith, Bourne, McDermott, or Samuel Jr.? Should Detroit prioritize veteran security or lean on youth development? And finally, would you pull the trigger on a deal for Kayvon Thibodeaux if you were in Brad Holmes' shoes? Is the upside worth the draft capital, or should the team hold its ground? Leave it in the comments. Before you leave, drop a like and subscribe. Be part of our fan base, and let's make Lions even stronger. Until the next video.